Welcome to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive. We are jumping right into what is, well, probably the biggest confirmed news story in rugby scheduling for a long time. It's a development that's been whispered about for years, and now it's officially on the calendar. The confirmed fixture between France, Les Bleus, and the mighty British and Irish Lions, set for June 2029.
It's just a phenomenal moment for the sport, isn't it? I mean, this is a 40-year drought being broken.
Yeah.
And that's generating some legitimate excitement, not just, across the home nations, but critically in France, too. However, for this deep dive, we really have to pull apart that raw excitement and marry it with the logistical reality. Our mission today is to synthesize the historical significance of this clash with the crucial context from our sources, which, sort of tempers expectations about the strength of that French side. The goal is to give you a really clear, comprehensive understanding of what's going on.
And that dual perspective is so essential here. We are celebrating a huge victory for rugby fans, but we also have to appreciate the complexities of the modern professional game. Before we unpack all that, the history and the scheduling puzzle, do yourself a favor. If you live and breathe rugby, subscribe to Rugby Obsession right now. This is exactly the kind of nuanced analysis you won't get anywhere else, and we really want to hear your thoughts on this huge announcement.
Okay, let's start with the hard news then.
Let's unpack it. The headline is just undeniable. France and the British and Irish Lions will meet in 2029. And crucially, the sources confirm this is scheduled right before the Lions head off for that huge tour of New Zealand, specifically sometime in June 2029. And that timing is absolutely critical to, everything else we're about to talk about.
It is, and what's fascinating here is the path they took to get this confirmed. This wasn't a snap decision. The reports highlight that the French Rugby Federation, the FFR, and the Lions management had been in pretty detailed talks for many months.
This has been rumbling on for a while.
For a long while. It followed this growing clamor from fans, from pundits, even influential ex-players, all pushing for it. We even have a quote from the FFR Vice President, Abdelatif Benazzi, from back in August last year. He said, "A collaboration with our neighbors remains something conceivable," which shows you this was a high-level priority.
And the reason it has such a pull, such a gravitational pull on the rugby calendar is the history. We are talking about the first meeting between these two iconic sides in 40 years. 40 years! I mean, that's just astounding. If you're under 45, you've probably never seen this fixture live.
And if we look back at that last meeting, back in 1989, you start to understand just how different the context is. Les Bleus won that day, 29-27, at Parc des Princes. A really close, thrilling game. But here's the pivotal distinction. That match happened after the Lions had already toured Australia.
Right, where they'd already won the series 2-1.
Exactly. So that match 40 years ago was, it was essentially a celebratory fixture, a massive friendly, tacked onto the end of a successful tour.
A curtain call. Huge prestige, but no real stakes for the tour itself.
Precisely. The 2029 match, being a pre-tour fixture, has immense stakes for the Lions as a warm-up. And of course, massive commercial value and prestige for the FFR. And just so you know, the source for this confirmation, all the analysis, it's coming from the respected French publication Midi Olympique.
The authoritative voice on French rugby, so we know this is locked in.
The fixture is confirmed. But now we do have to transition to the reality check, because the sources are quite clear that fans probably need to manage their expectations a little bit.
Okay, so here's the necessary deep dive into the fine print. Why the immediate dampener on the mood, we're talking about the Lions against France, arguably the dominant force in the Northern Hemisphere right now. This should be a heavyweight classic, so why the warning?
The core conflict, and this really gets into the weeds of French rugby structure, is scheduling. Specifically, the iron grip of their domestic competition, the top 14. This game is set for June, which falls right in the middle of the top 14 playoffs. We're talking semifinals and the final.
And we need to pause there because that's the whole story, isn't it? The FFR runs the national team, but the LNR, the league authority, they run the clubs and the money. And in June, money talks loudly.
Precisely. The LNR and the clubs have huge financial autonomy. Their main focus in that playoff period is winning the national title. Now, there is a new agreement between the FFR and LNR that helps a bit, like an expanded 42-player squad for the July internationals. But that June window around the semifinals, that remains incredibly rigid. The clubs pay the massive salaries, and they dictate when their players are released.
And you only need to look at the 2025 Lions tour to Australia to see the kind of chaos this timing creates.
The comparison is stark.
Yeah.
Look at 2025. The top 14 final took place on the exact same day as the Lions' second tour game in Australia. And, more relevant to this 2029 game, the top 14 semis were played the same weekend as the Lions' warm-up against Argentina.
And we saw the consequence of that, didn't we? Players like Scotland's Blair Kinghorn, who was involved in those playoffs, arrived in Australia much later than his teammates. He missed crucial training, early bonding, everything.
Now apply that exact logic to 2029. If that domestic calendar holds firm, and it almost always does, the implication is crystal clear. The Lions could very well be facing a Les Bleus team without any players from the four clubs that reached the semifinals.
And why would they? Why would a club fighting for a title release their best players for a test match a few days before a semifinal? They just won't.
They won't. The contracts and the competitive fire of the top 14 won't allow it. We saw it just last year with Argentina, Los Pumas. When they played the Lions, they were without several massive stars who play in France. Marcos Kramer, Juan Cruz Malia, guys like that.
So the impact of that L&R calendar goes way beyond just French players.
That's the realistic conclusion, really. Unless this fixture is somehow scheduled after the top 14 final, which every source says is highly unlikely, you should brace yourself for an understrength France. We're probably talking about a team built on youth, emerging talents, maybe similar to the one that lost that series to the All Blacks last July.
Right, which was missing a lot of its top domestic stars. But look, that's the reality of professional rugby. Club duty often trumps national duty. But this is still historic. A 40-year first is still something to get genuinely excited about. And to be honest, Argentina showed last year that even a compromised side can give the Lions a massive test.
Absolutely. The Lions will get a serious physical hit out no matter who's in that blue jersey.
So we have to ask you, what do you think? Will they find a compromise, or are we destined to see a French beaten team? Let us know your thoughts. And while you're thinking about that, don't forget to subscribe to Rugby Obsession. We pride ourselves on separating the hype from the hard facts of the rugby world.
Now, let's talk strategy. Because this fixture, even with a potentially compromised opponent, is so necessary for the Lions. This pre-tour Northern Hemisphere game has become a standard, essential part of their preparation.
It's fascinating, isn't it? They've continually looked for these high-profile games before they even get on the plane. It shows a real shift in how they prepare.
You can trace the trend. Think back to 2013, they faced the Barbarians in Hong Kong. A bit of a unique venue, sure, but it was still a fixture designed to get them playing before the big tour. Then ahead of the 2021 South Africa tour, Warren Gatland's side played Japan at Murrayfield. That game was absolutely crucial for them.
Especially under the COVID restrictions, right? It wasn't just about blowing off the cobwebs. It was about getting players from 4 different countries to actually understand the Lions playbook under test match pressure.
Precisely. And the most recent example just last year was Andy Farrell's team losing to Argentina in Dublin. Now, despite the result, that match was a vital stress test. It gave the coaches immediate feedback on the selections and their tactics. These games serve, 3 key purposes: systems integration, team bonding under pressure, and, of course, generating huge commercial revenue and hype.
And facing France, even an understrength France, is a massive prestige boost over, say, the Barbarians or Japan. It means the Lions are preparing against a team that demands respect and plays a brand of rugby that will immediately test their defense.
No question, the intensity of playing France will be exponentially higher than a standard warm-up game. It accelerates their readiness for the tour.
And as for where it'll be played, it's bound to be an epic spectacle at the glorious Stade de France. That stadium would just be absolutely electric for a contest like this.
So, what does this all mean for you, the listener?
We come back to that duality, really. There is genuine, completely justified excitement for a historic clash. But this has to be viewed through the sober reality of European rugby scheduling. The top 14 calendar is a financial titan that, unless something drastic changes, will impact the French team we see in June 2029. We should expect a highly competitive, fast game, but perhaps not the all-star XV we first dreamed of.
Which leaves us with a final thought, a bigger question, really. Building on these structural issues, this fixture forces us to consider the perpetual imbalance in the professional era. If a match of this history, this commercial value, can't compel the domestic league to compromise, what does that say? What does this confirmed fixture really mean for the necessary balance between top 14 club duty and the unparalleled prestige of a Lions test? It's a systemic question that the sport has to keep grappling with. Thank you for listening to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive. We look forward to you listening to our next episode. Don't forget to subscribe to Rugby Obsession wherever you get your content for the definitive analysis of the rugby world.